Hello, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Buccateers podcast. I'm your host, Tampa Tones. We are now in the off-season mode. We might have some crew joining, but some of them are still in the off-season mode as well. But nonetheless, there's so much news and Bucs stuff to talk about. I've decided to come live tonight to join you guys a little bit, talk some Bucs football for the next half hour, roughly or so. So we will be here on Bucs Life Media Facebook page and Buccateers YouTube for the next half hour, live answering any questions that might be out there. Just really talking Bucs. I got a nice little slate to talk about tonight. We're gonna go over QB chatter, Brady staying retired. I think so. I think a lot of the news is smoke with clickbait. We'll get into that more. Who is under center week one? Mike Caldwell and where he's heading. That was the inside linebackers coach of the Buccaneers. So obviously many of you heard about his departure by now. We'll get into that a little bit more on this show. The Bucs retain their coordinators. Yes, that's a very good thing in my opinion. I'll give my thoughts on that. Gronk had some interesting comments on Burrow. I'll give my comments and thoughts about that. I don't think there's much to make of that either, to be honest. I think people are gathering little bits of fluff and expanding that fluff into nonsense clouds between Brady and Gronk. But, you know, when you're legends and you're retiring and there's a lot of speculation going on, I don't expect anything less, but we'll get into that as well. Creamsicle uniforms on the march back. London or Germany game incoming in 2022. Super Bowl prediction. And then obviously we're going to end the show with Rondé Barber Hall of Fame chatter. Will Rondé Barber get into the Hall of Fame tonight? A lot of Bucs fans sure hope tonight is his night to get into the Hall of Fame. We've been banking on it for a little bit now, but Ira Kaufman hasn't really helped that. We'll see if he could step up and push him over the top, and we'll find out tonight. Is Hall of Fame finalists do get announced, the class of 2022, and for those unaware, you could have the minimum of 4 people get in per Hall of Fame class and the maximum of 8 people get in per Hall of Fame class. I believe there's still 14 finalists, and then there's 3 old-time finalists. So in total, there's about 17 eligible members to get into this year's Hall of Fame. So you got 17 eligible people, and at max you could get 8. So I think there's a pretty good chance Rondé gets in. He's the best nickel or one of the better nickel corners in the history of the game. He changed the position forever. He got after quarterbacks. His sacking ability was like no other. So we'll talk about that to end the show as well. But first, QB chatter. Listen, I've seen people tweet today, Brady's San Fran rumors, yada, yada, yada. Heard it from this, heard it from that. I'm a little skeptical. I'm skeptical for many, many reasons. The first reason being, when Tom Brady came to Tampa, I know that he had other choices on the table. To me, when he said you went with that MFer over me, he was referring to Ryan Tannehill. I know a lot of people are saying San Fran, he said he wanted to play in San Fran, blah, blah, blah. Sure, you know, maybe in 2020 he did, but I still think he put the Titans over San Fran. But to me, he's staying on the East Coast. His proximity to his son Jack, who he had with actress Bridget Monahan, has been, you know, his exponential reasoning of staying East Coast. That, nice weather, and talent. Well, the only way you get all 3 of those things is if you stay on the Bucs, because you go to Jacksonville, you're not getting that. Tennessee committed already. But to me, Brady's staying retired regardless, okay? Everyone's taken a little tiny comment he made on his Let's Go podcast. And let's be clear here. This is the same podcast the week before where Tom Brady said, I'm going to think about my retirement, yada, yada, yada. And then the next night he retired, right? Or the next morning it was. It wasn't even hours after the show, you know? It was about 8 to 9 hours. So now you fast forward this week, he says on his podcast, never say never, and everyone's running with it, you know. And I love Tom Brady. He's one of my favorites, if not, you know, favorite athlete there is. But at the end of the day, he led us down the rabbit hole on the Let's Go podcast 2 Mondays ago when he said, hey, I'm not really close to a decision. And everyone ran with his words, right? Everyone said, see, I said Brady's not retiring. Next day, what did he do? Retire. and that's where he's going to stay. He's 40 or going to be 45 by the time season starts. Okay. And not only that, he's not going to start over. So San Fran, throw that out of the window book right now, because the 45-year-old who wants to stay on the East Coast by his son, and mind you not, Giselle goes to Brazil here and there as well. West Coast, that's not really formidable. Both his son, seeing his son, and the Giselle thing. So with Brazil. So it doesn't really make sense for him to want to change locations. And at the very moment, everyone's also mentioning, oh, he had RAF with the Bucs organization. No, he didn't. That's just not true. Until I hear from him or a Bucs source who's credible itself, I'm not really buying that. So yada yada yada. I think Brady's staying retired, and if he comes out of retirement, he will be a Buck. There's really no way around it. We're not going to take the cap hit. We're not going to, lose a goat. No, and plus Brady doesn't want that tarnishment on his legacy. All he needs to do, say if he comes out of retirement, goes to San Fran, they have a couple big injuries, they're not that great next year. Well, what? Would he be happy joining us now, fellow Buccateer? We got Mr. Katz. Katz, how we doing today? Thanks for joining us. I was just kind of talking about Brady and personally how I think he'll be retired, and how the rumors to the 49ers just don't really make sense to me.
It's bullshit. It's because people are like, I mean, he has an affinity for the 49ers because he grew up a 49ers fan. He's also 44 years old. He'll be 45. Can the guy just retire in peace? Does it have to always be a reason behind it? If he were 35, we could go down this road. He's 45. He'll be 45. That's it. It's more work for some of these people, the Albert Breers, the Skip Baylesses of the world. Just imagine when LeBron retires. It's going to be the same thing. Now they've got to really do more work. So they've got to come up with some stories here. Keep them busy, because Tom Brady, people put eyes on stories about Tom Brady. They get clicks. That's all it is to me.
Yeah, and I've seen a specific tweet going around saying that somebody knows someone who's Brady's talked to, family, yada yada yada. I just don't get it, and I think everyone just wants to jump the gun and be first, whatever. But like you said, let the man retire in peace. He came to his decision, and if he did unretire magically, which I don't think he will at all, I give it less than even 0.5%, less than 0.1% probably, but he'd be a Buck. They just want to botch that at this point. But nonetheless, Cats, who do you think will be under center for Tampa week 1? If you had a guess, there's so many rumors, options, names flying the hell around right now. If you had to guess wholeheartedly, who are you taking as the Bucs signal caller under center week 1?
If I had to bet on it, I think it's going to end up being,
man.
If I were and I had to, I think it's going to end up being Kyle Trask. I do. It's not because I think they necessarily want him, nor do I think it's that they don't. I don't think they hate him. I, don't have a big opinion on him. You look around at what they might try to do. The cost of acquiring guys like Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson is high. And I don't think Green Bay is going to move him in the conference. We saw they didn't move Favre in the conference. He found his way to Minnesota. Seattle, I don't know. Kyler Murray, I don't know what's going on there. I don't see, and then, you look at your guys like Garoppolo, and if you wait him out and he becomes a free agent, then I'd sign him, but I wouldn't trade draft capital for him. So I think it's going to be Kyle Trask in week 1. If I had to guess, that's a very, very far ahead of time guess, though.
Yeah, I don't think I'd want to trade any sorts of draft capital for a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo myself, especially if the asking price that's being rumored for them is true. And then you look around the league, why would a team like the Cardinals or Seahawks or Packers want to trade their quarterbacks to us? Like you mentioned, the interconference thing with Favre all that time ago. Listen, all the Jets gave up for him, I believe, was a 3rd-round pick at that time, too. So it's not like, the Jets blew them away with some crazy offer or whatnot either to get Favre. No, it was pretty simple. They just didn't want to compete against Favre, the Packers. So I don't see the Packers trading Rodgers again within their division. And remember, the Packers are owned by a lot of stockholders. I know once you buy that stock, you can't go back, but you really think they'd be getting a lot of stockholders or shareholders or whatnot if they did trade Rodgers to the NFC, and then for some reason Rodgers were to, torch him and beat him? That would not be good. Russell Wilson, I don't think Seahawks trade him to us. Kyler Murray, I don't think is really realistic either. I think the possibilities come down to pretty much Jimmy G, like you mentioned, Kyle Trask, and then very outside chance at Gabbert. As much I read a Pewter Report article. They made the case for Gabbert, and it was pretty compelling. But at that point, the more I'm thinking about it, why wouldn't you just start Kyle Trask? He was a second round pick. Because even if people say, "Oh, start the season with Gabbert," well, if you lose one or two games with Gabbert, fans are going to be very unhappy, and then you put a lot of pressure on Trask, who thinks he'll have to come in and save the season or whatnot. So just let the kid start from the start, I think. But Cats, I'm going with right, wrong, or indifference, love him or hate him. I think I'm going with Jimmy G as a starter week one. I just think that with comments and with what Rick Stroud said in his article, how the Bucs are going to exhaust all options for veteran. But you know what I do wish, and I'll ask you about this. I don't know how realistic it is because I do know McDaniels does respect Carr, but McDaniels loved the hell out of Jimmy Garoppolo. What do you think if the Raiders were to somehow trade for Jimmy G and then Carr is made available? Do you think that's realistic at all or not really?
Well, I'd love to have, when you start talking about names out there, he's a guy, I don't want to say love to have, I'd like him very much. I actually like Derek Carr. I think he's a solid quarterback. But the Raiders moving Derek Carr for Jimmy Garoppolo, and I know Garoppolo's got a winning record. I know he's been to a Super Bowl. I know he didn't have, I'm not going to take too much away. I mean, hey, he was the quarterback of the team that went to the Super Bowl. Did he have a lot to do with it? I didn't think he was very good. He made enough plays in big moments. But that would be a dumb move for the Raiders, in my opinion. So I'd be surprised, but not shocked, because, new coaches come in, they want their guys. I think that's an ego thing more than anything. So it wouldn't shock me, but boy, for the Raiders, as far as them as a team goes, I think they'd be taking a step back, but if they were to do that.
And I think a lot of Las Vegas fans would be a little pissed off if that happened as well. I mean, look at what Derek Carr brought the Raiders through this year, right? They went through all that adversity. They went through a couple head coaches. Bisaccia coached his ass off, but to have Carr's back, it's never easy having two head coaches in one season, let alone having the Henry Ruggs thing, the Damon Arnett thing, and then couple other things. Darren Waller getting hurt pretty much all year. Josh Jacobs getting banged up here and there throughout the season as well. They signed Deshaun Jackson, but he is known to create more problems in the locker room than help quarterbacks at that. So Derek Carr kind of overcame a lot this year, led the Raiders to the playoffs. The refs didn't help them at all against the Bengals in that game. I'm not taking anything against Joe Burrow and the Bengals, but there was a whistle blown where the Bengals scored a touchdown. They counted that play that should never count in an NFL game, and a couple other flags that game as well. So the Raiders, led by Derek Carr, were really close to making the playoffs. Now, like you said, new coach comes in. Does his ego affect him a little bit? I mean, we've seen McDaniels go to Denver before, and he did some very interesting things in Denver. Not so great of things either. So, does he go to the Raiders and do that? I think he knows better by now. I think he has Carr at least. I think he has Carr at least this year. I mean, he goes there. Him and Carr aren't a match. Well, then that's something different. But you got to get at least a season with a Pro Bowl quarterback and one who made the playoffs. So he's proven to be a playoff caliber quarterback. And as you said, Jimmy G made the Super Bowl, and he almost made it again this year. Sure, I know he was banged up this year, but his numbers weren't fantastic. He wasn't great in some of those games, and they had Deebo Samuel, one of the best playmakers in football. I think he really attributed to their success this year. So I don't know. I don't really fathom that as possible.
I mean, if you want to give up, you're going to get a compensatory 5th-round pick for Mike Caldwell going to the Jags. So if you want Garoppolo and you want to throw them a 5th or 6th-round pick, fine, go ahead. But I think they're going to want more than that. The Niners, that is. I didn't know what their asking price is or what they're thinking they're going to get. But when you have a market that's limited, you can start asking for above market value. And some teams we've seen will do that. We've seen guys like A.J. Feely get traded for 2nd-round picks. I'm going way back there. Yeah. But if you remember the Eagles quarterback who played, I think, 3 games for McNabb when he got hurt, got traded for a 2nd-round pick. He absolutely sucked and then ended up back with the Eagles, a long time ago. That's just off the top of my head. Teams will pay for a name, and he is a name, Garoppolo, that is. But, I mean, Kyle Shanahan did a great job, I think, in putting together an offense that suited him as well as possible for many years, and they were a better team with him. But you put him here, you ask him to drop back and throw 40 times a game, 30, 35 times a game. I just can't see that working. I don't think he's ever been asked to do that.
No. And like you said, names garner value for quarterbacks. Kevin Cobb too. We've seen that.
That's right, Kevin Cobb.
Along with Feely's. So, we've seen cases of this happening time to time, and then you see things like you handcuff yourself into a quarterback like the Vikings have with Kirk Cousins.
A good quarterback. I think. Yeah. I like Kirk Cousins. I would take him, but he's cost a lot of money, and if I were them, I'd be asking for a lot in return in terms of draft capital.
And I do like Kirk Cousins, and trust me, if he came to the Bucs, I would be happy with that. But look at what happened there. They gave him so much money. I don't want it to be a thing where the Bucs, just for example, trade for a quarterback, and then next year they feel like they have to pay that quarterback money. The next thing you know, you're stuck with a guy like Jimmy G for 3 or 4. Look what's happening with Carson Wentz right now. Not saying he can't win with the Colts, but just look at that a little bit. It's happening time to time around the league. So sometimes you get handcuffed with a veteran quarterback, it works out. Sometimes you get handcuffed with a veteran quarterback, and it could be tough sledding for a couple of years. But one way or another, I mean, what? We're going to have to find out. When do you think the latest is we find out who our quarterback is for next year? I mean, free agency starts in March, but technically you could agree to trades before that. But right. It seems like you think we won't find out for a while. If it is Trask, we probably won't find that out until what, September?
August or September. I wouldn't be shocked, although, I mean, I don't think Arians is returning. I think Arians had a pretty decent idea that Brady was retiring. I mean, we'll never know who he told or who he didn't, but I'm sure he gave some indication at some point during the season he made that decision. And I don't think it was for bad reasons. I think he probably thought about it during the bye week. Maybe that was a time to reflect, But Arians decided he's coming back, so I'm sure that's not to necessarily put a second year, so they'll be in a second year, quarterback or a guy like Blaine Gabbert. So they'll exhaust all their resources, or try to anyway. I just don't know how realistic these guys are. And after Jimmy G, the guys we mentioned, I can't think of anyone else out there. I should say, I've heard people mention Jameis's name. I wouldn't do that. It's not anything personal against the guy. I don't think you get back together with your ex. That doesn't usually work in anything. And I've seen I think I saw Marcus Mariota's name. I noted that too. I can't see him working in this particular offense. He needs a special kind of system. He does need a system to work. And at times he's had his moments, but I don't think he's a starting quarterback in this league. I think he's more of a backup that can give you some gimmick plays every now and then. So I don't know who else is out there.
The only other name I heard, you named them all, the only other one I heard, which I'm not fond of either, is Teddy Bridgewater.
Oh, right, Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, a few years ago, I would have looked at that differently. After that year with New Orleans, I thought, wow, it looks like he's back, he's healthy. And then where'd he go? He went to Carolina. That didn't work. He went to Denver. He got hurt again. He's had some bad injury luck. And when he's been healthy these last 2 years, he hasn't looked like the same quarterback I remember when he was with Minnesota before the injury. I'm not saying he was ever great, but at least he could move around a little. He could create. So, no, I wouldn't be crazy about that. Is he a free agent or is he still under contract? He's under contract, isn't he?
Who Bridgewater? I think he is a
Yeah.
free agent because he signed a 2-year deal in Carolina. He spent 1 year there, one with Denver. I think he is technically a free agent.
Well, I wouldn't be shocked if they did go that route then, because I know Arians likes him quite a bit, from my understanding.
Yeah, I know. I remember that as well when Arian said, yeah, he respects Bridgewater a lot. And before we move on to other talk, I want to leave you with one last question. Then, since we've talked Jameis a little bit, since we talked Bridgewater a little bit, since we talked Mariota a little bit, I'm gonna throw one other name in the hat. Out of these four guys, if you could have one to come in next year and be in the quarterback room with Kyle Trask, would you choose Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota, Teddy Bridgewater, or Blaine Gabbert?
Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah,
If
I
I had
think
to pick one of those four, I had to.
as long as he's not asking for crazy money, I think I'm with you.
I don't
You
think
know,
he. Well, I mean, it's a somewhat limited market, but given the way his last 2 years have gone and how many the amount of injuries he's sustained, he's shown on bad luck more so than anything that he's not able to. He's had a hard time making it healthy through a season. I don't know how much he'd have to get some sort of incentive laden type of deal. I would think team friendly, somewhat team friendly, anyhow.
yeah, kind of like how Jameis's was last season with the Saints when he signed for like 1 or 2 million, but he had incentives that could bump it up to 8 or 9 million if he did X, Y, or Z, yada yada yada, with Breeze or Taysom getting hurt or whatnot. But I think I agree with you. You probably give Bridgewater at most 5 year base salary, and then you say, hey, it's possible you could earn up to. I'd only leave him. I'd give him 15 million max in potential. I'd say you could earn up to 15 million. And then you could put playoff incentives in there as
Yeah.
well on top of that 15 million,
Oh yeah.
where he could maybe turn it into a 20 million. Every round is $1 million. I know with Brady they did every round was 500,000 or whatnot. So maybe with a guy like Bridgewater, you have to juicing up, fatten up that number a little bit come playoff time. But all I know is we got about as good as guess as the rest of us, and man, that's nothing at this point. There's so many names being floated around. We'll see what happens, though. I mean, your guess
And we're
is
not the only team that needs one. That's the problem. I mean, we're not alone. If we were the only ones that need one, we'd be in the driver's seat. We could, and if Green Bay is going to trade Rodgers, well, I'm sorry, no, they've got Jordan Love already, I guess, for better or worse.
But the other teams, Seattle and Arizona, if they trade their guys, they don't really got. And if Carr's gone, they don't really got backups.
No, so what are they doing? They're drafting quarterbacks, and my understanding is it's not a great quarterback draft, from what I've heard, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. A lot of these quarterbacks are considered prospects. And if you remember some big prospect quarterbacks, some haven't turned out so great, right? EJ Manuel, Blaine Gabbert, Mitch Trubisky. These were the guys taken in the first round with huge ceilings, known as quote unquote prospects. Nothing against these guys because all quarterbacks are coin flips, but that's what you're pretty much getting in this year's class. You got Pickett, you got Riddle, and you got the guy from Liberty, Carson, the kid from Nevada. You got a couple quarterbacks here and there, but they're all projects at the end of the day. So
Trubisky's a free agent, isn't he? Because
yeah, I've
someone
heard that
said,
name.
I mean, I don't remember who said that maybe a year playing with it being with Brian Daboll and playing behind Josh Allen that he might have learned something. I mean, maybe. I don't know. I mean, yeah, do you hitch your wagon to him? No, again, he's someone that if you sign, you give an incentive laden deal to. That's another type of guy. I could see it though. Again, there's teams that need quarterbacks. He had mixed, maybe even kind to say he had a mixed experience with the Bears. I know they made the playoffs twice with him. It wasn't necessarily because of him. I know he had a good game against us. That wasn't saying much. He had his moments where you said, oh, look, he's a good athlete. He runs, he moves around well, he can make these throws. And then you watch him and you said, what the hell is going on here? So it wasn't a great situation for him either. But again, maybe he learned something with the Bills. He was behind a great offensive coordinator and a great quarterback in Josh Allen. So I think someone will probably pay him to be a starter. Will it be us? I don't know, but the name came into my head, or came into your head, and now it came into mine. wouldn't shock me. I actually wouldn't hate it, all things considered, either.
And shout out to good buddy Paul Chin. He's watching. He's tuned into the Buccateers. Thanks, Paul, for tuning in. We do appreciate you. But yeah, the quarterback room is just the thing with Trubisky is, if you bring him in and he just does nothing, it's going to be a lot of high heat quick. But like you said, he had his ups and downs, but I don't really want him. Like, I wouldn't mind him if he had a backup Trask and then say Trask crap the bed, and then a guy like Trubisky had to come in and maybe play some hero ball. That could be one thing, but I don't want him as their straight out starter, in my opinion. That's just me, but we'll see what happens. Moving on from quarterback, we got a plethora of things to talk about. Mike Caldwell, our inside linebackers coach, is heading to Jacksonville. He's staying in the Sunshine State, but he's getting a promotion. He's getting hired by the Jaguars as their defensive coordinator to go alongside Doug Peterson. So he's been here from 2019 to 2021. He's won a Super Bowl with us as a coach. So very good to see. He was before us, he was a Jets inside linebackers coach. Before that, he was inside linebackers coach in Arizona with Bruce Arians. Before that, he was Eagles linebackers coach. So he's been a long time linebackers coach now, former linebacker in the NFL. Now he gets his crack, finally, as defensive coordinator for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And honestly, I really couldn't be happier for him. I think that's a great move for Jacksonville. What say you, Kat?
I agree. He's put in his time for sure. As a linebackers coach with a lot of organizations, he's had some good linebackers over the years with everywhere he's been. He definitely is deserving of the promotion. I wish him well. I think the Jags are actually, it's not a terrible spot to be. It's not the most talent-laden roster, but at the same time, they're not in the greatest division. They've got some premium. I believe they got the first overall pick, actually. I think it's a good spot for him. I really do, and I really wish him well there, and I think he'll do well. Obviously, they're a work in progress, of course, but I think it's a good spot. I think he deserves it.
And I felt like even if Leftwich went there, I felt like that would have been his defensive coordinator there as well, him or Larry Foote, potentially. So, we'll see what happens. One way or another, we'll see. I like Caldwell, though. I think his success will roll over to Jacksonville. Some people say, oh, Jacksonville. I think he'll do good there. I think Doug Peterson was actually a pretty good hire there, given the circumstances. Super Bowl coach, although their GM is a little bit of a clown, in my opinion. That's a whole nother story. But I believe the Bucs do as well get a 5th-round comp pick for Caldwell either this year or next year for grooming a coordinator. So that's another thing. But I think Caldwell does well in Jacksonville and helps them out a little bit. And the AFC South is there for the taking. So I'm not saying Jacksonville will have a crazy turnaround, but look at Cincinnati this year. No one ever predicted that out of them. You never know what the heck happens. They get Travis Etienne back. Trevor Lawrence gets a little better. They get him some stuff. I'm not saying they're going to be Super Bowl contenders or even playoff contenders, but I bet you they sure as hell win more than 2 games next year or 3
They will.
games. Whatever the heck it was with Doug Peterson, I bet you they win at least 5, 6, 7, and I think Jacksonville fans would be very happy with that. What say you?
I agree with that. I mean, he inherits Trevor Lawrence. He's got, like you mentioned, Etienne should be back. They showed some signs late in the season. Obviously, they played hard at the end. They knocked Indianapolis out of the playoffs in the final week. I don't know how much of the roster will still be there. But again, they got the number. I believe they're picking first. They do have the number 1 overall pick again, if I'm not mistaken.
You are right.
They do. So they're going to have that. And yeah, like I said, that division doesn't, you look at the Texans, you look at, the Colts, you look at Tennessee, I think Tennessee is, a fine team. I think Vrabel's a great coach. Sometimes I think he doesn't get as much credit as he deserves. But yeah, it's not like there's any great quarterbacks there in that division. And if Trevor Lawrence is even close to as good as we all expected him to be, they could very soon have the best quarterback in that division with a former Super Bowl winning head coach who won a Super Bowl with Nick Foles and who used to be the Jags quarterback for a few seconds or so. And there you go. Could work out very well for them. Give them a few years.
See, everything comes full circle. You gotta love it. And the way Wentz is being battered around too, that's even more impressive of Doug Peterson perhaps winning a Super Bowl with Foles and Wentz at quarterback. And I don't mind Wentz personally, but some people seem to. But nonetheless, we're gonna talk about the Bucs retaining their coordinators next. They obviously are keeping all three of their coordinators at this point. Byron Leftwich is offense of coordinator, Todd Bowles is defensive coordinator, and Keith Armstrong is special teams coordinator. Nothing against Keith, but that was the one I was hoping we would maybe look to upgrade a little bit. Special teams has been our, weak hamstring the past couple of seasons, literally and figuratively. A lot of injuries on special teams, a lot of bad plays on special teams. Pinion's play has decreased here in Tampa. Besides Grant Stewart and Pat O'Connor and Rashard Robinson, not a lot of good special teams momentum last year. Jalen Darden, we used a mid-round pick on him. He never really got going return-wise. We had a decent returner in Mickens. We decided to cut him, and, Armstrong definitely has some stay in that. So as we welcome in Stunna here, we'll start with Stunna here. Stunna, what say you on the Bucs retaining all three of their coordinators, and do you think they should have tried to improve any of them, specifically special teams? I'm happy with keeping Byron and keeping Todd Bowles. I know Bowles made a poor mistake on that blitz call, but Byron and Bowles have done pretty damn well here the past couple of years, give or so some circumstances. I was happy with keeping those two. I could have done without Keith Armstrong.
Well, these are BA's guys, and one thing about coaching, you got to be around people you're comfortable with. So these are BA's friends. I think the majority of the people on his staff either coached with him or played with him at Temple. So, or played for him at Temple, I should say. So I'm not surprised at all. And as long as we have Bruce Arians, I fully support everything he got going, because we know what it looks like when you don't have a legit coach. And I got a bounce back question. It's kind of funny how Lovie Smith backdoored the coach the way Dirk backdoored him, ain't it?
Good point. Good point. I didn't think of that.
Yeah, everything comes full circle like that. That is a good point, Stunna. It's because Dirk was Lovey's OC and, got the promotion kind of out of nowhere. Like, Lovey was expected years here, then he got 2 short ones, not a lot of success. And then Dirk Cutter kind of got handed the gig randomly, and it's kind of like Lovey got handed the Houston gig randomly. So I think that's a brilliant point, Stunna. Katz, what say you on our coordinators, and are you happy we retained him, or do you wish we could have done something different somewhere?
No, I'm fine with retaining them. I mean, you're right, Keith Armstrong, our special teams were not great. At the same time, we talk about struggles of opinion. To me, a punter struggling, they're so volatile in nature. One year they're great, one year they're not. Next year they're so-so. I don't really put that on the coach. Same with kickers. Now, Darden, yeah, it was a rough first season for him. And you trade, I believe we traded up to get him. But again, it is just one season. You get some time, now to learn from it, hopefully. And otherwise, though, I'm fine with keeping everybody. I thought Leftwich was going to get the Jacksonville job. It looked like it was almost signed, sealed, and delivered. It didn't happen, so I'm happy to have him back. I mean, the bottom line is, his offenses have ranked in the top 10 in a lot of categories all 3 years, even the Jameis season. You had the turnover issue. That I don't put that on him. Obviously many people say, well, he had Brady. It's like, yeah, but he still was the offensive coordinator of a highly rated unit. I think he's grown quite a bit in the last few years, so I'm happy to have him back.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I'm really ecstatic to have Leftwich and him particular Bowles kind of, but I really want Leftwich or Harold Goodwin to be the next Bucs head coach if we stay in-house. Specifically, I'd be happy with Leftwich or Harold Goodwin. So I think Byron deserves a shot, and if he gets it here in Tampa, that'd be fun. Bowles is still a nice piece to keep as well outside that blitz, I consider. So we have another trending fluff, I call it here. The Brady fluff of him saying, never say never. I think that's getting taken out of proportion. Something else that I think is this, but it might certainly close his return on at least Tampa. Gronk said earlier this week that if he could play with one quarterback besides Tom Brady, it'd be Joe Burrow. Kat, are you making anything of those comments? Do you think that pretty much seals the door on Tampa one way or another, whether it's retirement or somewhere else for Gronk? Or do you think, hey, maybe there's still hope that he does return to the Bay Area?
I'm not giving up hope that he's returning. I mean, if I had to bet on it, I'd guess he wouldn't, but I don't think it's out the door. He's had a home here for quite a long time, actually, before he even played for the Bucs. He's got family down here. I think he likes it here quite a bit. So I wouldn't, obviously Joe Burrow's an incredible quarterback. A lot of players would love to play with him, but I wouldn't rule out a return to the Bucs. I really wouldn't. I think it's quite possible. He likes his teammates. He likes it here. Clearly likes the coaching staff. So I could still see him coming back.
Stunna, what say you? Do you agree with Katz, or do you think that Gronk's going to pack his bags and either head to Cincinnati or retirement?
Gronk's a guy, he wants to play with certain quarterbacks. Remember, he nixed a trade to Detroit, once upon a time. So it's hard to tell, man. It's hard to tell. I don't make a lot out of his comments about wanting to play with Joe Burrow. I just make that as, he's just giving the guy, his props or his kudos or whatever. But I don't know what's going on because Tom Brady, he had another year in his contract. All of a sudden he retires. Are these guys not happy in Tampa? I don't know what's going on besides behind the scenes. I would hope not, but we never know. You know what I mean? And hopefully the rest of the story will be brought to fruition. But all I've heard from Gronk so far is if you ask me today, I'm going to retire, and then if I'm going to play, I'm going to play with this quarterback, and he's a free agent, so he's not tied to our team.
Well, let's remember too, as I was looking through Brady's Instagram today as well, Brady pretty much only signed that extension only to get everyone back last year, right? He really wasn't considering the years behind that extension. In fact, when he signed that contract extension last year, he posted on Instagram, his caption was, let's get the band back together and go for 8. So he was pretty much saying, by me signing this contract, I'm allowing the Bucs to literally bring everyone back, and we're going for 8. So the Bucs pretty much did everything they could do to make him happy. They gave him that extension so they could bring everyone back. I really don't think he was unhappy in Tampa. I don't think Gronk was unhappy here. I think these are two competitors who love to be here, and they love to play here, and they're just getting old. We've seen Gronk retire once, and now we've seen Brady retire once, and he's 44, going to be 45 years old. And I just read today as well, 3 years ago, Giselle wrote a note to Tom Brady saying she was concerned for their marriage because he was spending too much time with football. So I know, those rumors were going down again. Oh, it could not be Giselle, this and that. But 3 seasons ago, Giselle was writing divorce letters threatening Tom Brady. Could you imagine after this year, after seeing his bloodied lip, after seeing him bust his ass off, after seeing that clown show, Antonio Brown meltdown, Giselle probably said, Tom, nothing against you, nothing against the game, nothing against the Bucs, but before something really catastrophic happens, injury, you're 45 now. No matter what TB12 method you're using, when your body gets that old, you're one big hit away from never being the same again. And why risk that when you are already the best ever, to me? So to me, it's a simple answer. And to me, Tom was just hearing whispers in his ear from Giselle primarily. And that article reiterating her writing a divorce letter to Tom Brady 3 years ago, not quite a divorce letter, but threatening that direction concerning their marriage, that was pretty eye-opening to me. And then another thing that popped up, Brady loves being close to his family. He loves being by Jack. Jack loves the Florida area. In fact, Jack was a ball boy for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year. The Bucs employed Brady's son, who Brady chose to move to Tampa and play in Tampa to be close to his son for. I just don't get how there's any shot of Brady being unhappy in an organization that's literally done tooth and nail for the guy. And he's done tooth and nail for us, so it goes both ways. But I really think that's a lot of clickbait. And and whatnot. But I guess people could say you never know. I'm just not buying all that stuff. But one thing I would like to buy is a Tom Brady creamsicle jersey. Will we get that chance? Probably not. Cats, what say you? Do you think we'll get creamsicle uniforms back in 2022?
Yes, I do actually, because I believe they're removing the one helmet rule. Is that correct that that rule is being put aside finally?
You are correct, but do you think that
Yeah.
would mean an end to our pewter jerseys as well as a piggyback question?
No, I don't think so. I've seen several teams wear 4 kits, I believe. So no, I don't think so. We only wore the pewter once last year, but I see them bringing it back. I do see because they know it was very popular when they wore the creamsicle throwbacks, and they're not going to pass on that opportunity. It's something that Mike Evans has he? No, he's not gotten to wear yet. Yeah, it would have been cool to see Brady in them, but I do see them taking the opportunity to do a throwback game. Probably do it against Green Bay again, the way they did the first time, an old division rival. And yeah, I see them doing that, and I look forward to it.
Yeah, I really look forward to that as well. Stunna, do you agree with Cats? Are we seeing creamsicles and pewter uniforms here next year?
Yeah, I guess we can get away with wearing a pewter on the road because we wore it at Denver the year before, and last year I think we wore it at LA.
Yeah.
And so I think we tend to wear pewter on the road. Yeah, the creamsicle is uber popular. The only reason I would see us not wear it is because the Glaciers don't like it.
Yes, sir. And I know what you mean by that because of the era and whatnot. But I agree with you guys for the most part. I think creamsicles and pewter will both be here. We'll continue wearing the pewter once a year or so. Creamsicles one big game a year or so as well. And then we'll primarily factor those white unis in with the splash of the red as well. Nice little I mean, with 17 games now too, why not? You throw in the 3 preseason games. You're playing at least 20 games a year. Not that you would wear pewter or creamsicle in preseason, but you don't want to overdo the white and the red with 20 games. You want to sprinkle in the creamsicle. You want to sprinkle in the pewter. To me, they should have wore pewter at least twice this past season, like they did the year before against Atlanta and Denver. But what can you do now, guys? From uniforms to where we play, we only got a couple subjects left here. There's been rumors of us playing the Saints in London. There's been the rumors of us kicking off in Germany next year as being named one of the Germany football hub teams. Stunna, we'll start with you here. Out of these options, London, Germany, or neither, how do you slice the cake of your preference for Bucs football next year? If you had to pick one, would it be London or Germany? But are you even a fan of these overseas games occurring in Europe?
Yeah, I'm definitely not a fan of overseas games. I remember when they first started doing it in '92 during the preseason, and I thought that was enough. I know we played in Tokyo one year in the preseason.
Yeah.
And I'm not a fan of it at all. I mean, it's American football. Only really American people enjoy it. I know it's got popular in London, but that's because there's 32 teams. You know what I mean? If they had one London team, they wouldn't sell out. So, no, and I don't think we've ever won overseas. And so, and I know we're probably the least popular team in London. So I definitely don't want to go back overseas. I don't see a point in it. I think it's a waste. I'm not a fan of our commissioner doing that. They talk about player safety, and to me, this is not a safe thing to do, to be traveling internationally in the middle of your schedule. So I'm not a fan of it, and I hope that we don't go to either location.
Yeah, I could agree with you. I'll share my piece with that in a second. Katz, are you in agreement with Stunna, or does Germany or London game? I know we've done London before. Does something like that catch your eye?
No, I don't care for it either. I have a feeling, though, given that we are going to be doing another one. I don't know if it'll be this season, but it'll be over the next 2, 3, or 4 years. We'll be going back to one of them, but I don't care for it either. It's not been good to the Bucs in all 3 times. Bad. It's just gone poorly every time, not just on the field, but off the field. Knowing some things about it, especially the second time we went there. And I'm not, I don't hate it, but I'm not. It's not something that makes me excited. It doesn't.
To me, the one international series that made sense in the NFL they took away, that was the Buffalo getting one home game a year in Toronto, because they're, so close to Toronto. They're right across the border. So that one made sense because you get a Canadian fan base. You get a lot of Bills fans out there, and Bills could drive there. You could literally drive there. So that one's the only one that makes sense to me. Playing these games in London and Germany, you're
Mexico
asking.
City's not bad. I'll say that.
Oh yeah, you're right. Mexico City isn't bad. That's what I'm saying. You should stick between Mexico and Canada. That's easy travel for these teams. You're still getting two other big countries with big football market potentials, with Canada and Mexico in the mix as well. So really, that's equal to London and Germany. But instead, no. Let's funnel these games in Germany. Let's funnel these games in London. If anything, like was mentioned here, and I know someone tweeted about it. Put a first preseason game of the year in London. That's that. One in Germany, maybe that's that, but nothing more than that. I mean, it's getting ridiculous. If anything, do advertise and do sponsorships over there, but nothing lasts over there. I mean, they even had Europe football leagues over there before. Those hit the ground. Nothing lasts over there. So I don't know. I'm not a fan of either. I don't want to see the Bucs play in Germany or London either. So that's our opinions. I think we're all in agreement there. Mexico City or Canada, I'd be fine with. If we go to Toronto or we go to Mexico City, I'm not going to complain about that. That's a cool football game in my opinion. So we'll see what happens. And we'll also see what happens tonight, fellas, when Rondé Barber tries to make it over the hump into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, as he's one of 14 finalists. And it's not a great class. It's a good class. Not a great class, though, but to me, has a very good chance of getting in, given the class. I'll give my class prediction here in a minute, but Katz, what say you? How do you like Barber's chances, and what do you think of this class as a whole?
I mean, it is a solid class. I believe he of course, should be in. I feel like he's past due. In fact, do I think he's going to get in? I woke up today thinking, you know what? I don't think he's going to get in, and I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I just have a bad feeling he's going to get passed over again for the same bullshit reasons. They don't ever say the reasons, but I know the reasons, and I think he's going to get passed up again. And I really hope I'm wrong.
Man. I hope you are too. I know what you mean, though. He's been screwed time to time. I wouldn't be shocked if he's screwed here again. Such a prominent member of our Bucs community. We need him in. Stunna, what say you? Does Rondé get in tonight, or does he continue to get screwed?
It's not really my opinion because I feel like he was a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
So and they put Charles Woodson in over him, or put in Charles Woodson in before him, and I definitely thought that he, had a better NFL career than Charles Woodson. So, although Charles Woodson has played for two teams, I guess that was one of his advantages, two fan bases. But no, I think he better get in. It's a little ridiculous. He should have been first ballot. But Katz, you know what happened in London with Coach Raw and all that? Do you have any privy to that information?
My understanding was him and Aqib Talib got into a very bad altercation the second London trip and had to be separated by teammates. That was what I heard. I believe Chris Hovan was involved. Jeff Bain was involved. The Talib really lost it, and Raheem and him just had it out. And after that game, they lost that game to the Bears. They didn't win another game that year.
Yeah, I know Coach Raw had to come home on a different airplane, too.
That I did not know. I just knew it got really ugly. I didn't know it got that ugly, but I can't say I'm surprised. It wasn't good. It was not good. The first one wasn't good. And the last one, we remember what happened in that one. It was not good. So, and you're right, they don't like the Glazers over there. There is a prominent UK Bucs fan club, but still, we're not. They know who we are. They don't, like us, and it's not been kind to us for so many reasons. So I hope we don't have to go back there. That's no disrespect to London. Beautiful city, I'm sure.
Right. Absolutely agree with that.
Our first London game was a bloodbath against Tom Brady and the Patriots, and Sammy Stroughter was our leading receiver with like 60 receiving yards that game. I actually have Sammy's game-worn London jersey from that game against the Patriots, interesting enough. So, and then
Good guy.
like, I like Sammy. And then like Katz and Stunna alluded to, we were there against the Bears. That game got ugly a little bit. We tried to play comeback trail a little bit, didn't turn out too well. And then we went over there against Carolina. Jameis had that four interception day. That was
5. I think it was 5. Don't
5,
short him
yeah.
an interception.
so I thought it. Cats, they say it was the wide receiver's fault, man.
Oh, right. Yeah, and it was the time change and all that. You're right. Yeah, it's only 4. But
We should have practiced in London, though. That's one thing we definitely did wrong last year.
Yeah, so I agree, but getting back to the Hall of Fame, my Hall of Fame class prediction tonight for the class of 2022. Again, minimum of 4 members get in, maximum of 8 get in. If I'm predicting, I think DeMarcus Ware makes it for the first ballot Hall of Famer. You usually have 1 per class. I think he's the one. I thought Rondé should have been years ago first ballot too, but I was wrong on that. DeMarcus Ware, I think, gets in tonight. I think that Tony Baselli gets in tonight. I think that he's deserving. The only reason why people are shorting him is because his career was so short and how it ended with the Texans. I think that Reggie Wayne gets in tonight. He had an incredible career with the Colts. Very good career there. I think Rondé gets in tonight. I think that we're going to see Rondé Barber get in tonight. That could be the fan in me. But I really think we're going to see him get in. And then to me, the 5th one for the recent players is between Jared Allen, Torrey Holt, or Devin Hester. But I don't think Hester gets in tonight. I think he'd have to wait a couple years. I don't think they'll put a return specialist in first ballot. To me, it comes down to Jared Allen or Torrey Holt. And I'd give
what about Zach Thomas? Is Zach Thomas on there?
I think Zach Thomas could make it. He's a finalist, and he had a very good career. So,
He got the numbers.
What'd you say, Stunna?
I said Zach Thomas has the numbers. He didn't have he didn't win any championships for them, but he definitely has the numbers stacked up.
Yeah, that was my kind of thinking on the Jared Allen too. That's why I think Jared Allen has a chance because never won championship, but he had the numbers and he had that tight end shtick as well. And then I'm going with, I think all the old time candidates get in as well. I think Dick Vermeil gets in, Cliff Branch gets in, and Art McNally all get in as well. Does anyone have any comments or questions about Hall of Fame stuff before we get into Super Bowl predictions and bounce out of here? Any other comments on Hall of Fame?
I hope we get the game.
I wish I were more optimistic for Rondé. I really do. It's not that I think he's so deserving. I just feel like, the same bullshit going to keep him out. But I really hope I'm wrong, man. I really do.
Stunna, what was your words on the Hall? I know Katz has his doubts on Rondé. I'm feeling a little optimistic, although I felt like this every year and I've only been disappointed. So who knows if I should feel like this. Stunna, what were your last thoughts on the Hall?
I said I hope we get to play in the Hall of Fame game because the Buccaneers have never played it. I know of.
That would be cool. And for those unfamiliar with Hall of Fame games, those are the first preseason game of the year. It kicks off the NFL season. You play in Canton, Ohio. It's a nice little time. So that'd be cool if
we did. By the way, Stunner, we played 1998. We played the Steelers.
Oh, okay.
That's the last one I remember. I don't think we played any other ones, though, so it's been a long time. That's the only one we did one. That's been too long. You're right. It'd be cool to play in another one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm cool with that. As you guys alluded to, we had the Tokyo game before as well. Bucs have had some interesting games before, but the Hall of Fame game, Canton game, would be right in our backyard, so why not keep it? Daniel Williams comments, number 20 needs to be in there. Nobody done what he did. We agree. We all think that he should be. The question is, will the committee say the same, So we'll see what happens there. Now as we wrap up Hall of Fame talk and bounce into Super Bowl predictions before we get our one big thing. Katz, we'll start with you here. We got a battle. We got a battle between the veteran and the rookie quarterback here. We got Stafford, we got Burrow, we got underdog Bengals getting 4.5 points against the Rams. We got David against Goliath here. What say you, Cats, on the outcome of the Super Bowl? What's your score and any bold predictions for the game?
I think Bengals are going to win it. They were counted out against the Chiefs. Tennessee game, I think many people thought they had a shot, but I think they were an underdog in that one as well, maybe a mild underdog. I think, after they've gotten this far, I think they're going to win it. I'm going to give them – it's going to be very tight. I think McPherson's going to have another big game, and they're going to win 26-24. That means he's hit 4 more field goals. And I don't normally talk about field goals, but this guy's been tremendous for them, and I think Burrow has a great game as well.
You know, it's funny. I predicted that he was going to hit 4 field goals in this game, too, because he's such a damn stud. I'll get into my score and thoughts here in a minute. I like where your head's at, though. We're pretty close. I have a little more higher scoring, but I always overshoot that for the Super Bowl. And Pops did comment in. He says, good to hear the Stunnaman and Cat on the show. We appreciate you tuning in as always, Pops. Pops from Twitter. That is my Pops tuning in. Thank you, sir. Stunna, what say you on your Super Bowl predictions? Bengals, Rams, David Goliath. We got Cats taking the 26-24 approach, 4 field goal approach. What say you, Stunna?
Well, my heart is definitely with Cincinnati, but unfortunately, I think about last year's Super Bowl where we played Kansas City and they had problems on the O-line, and we kind of exposed it, remember correctly. And I see the same thing happening here. So I'm going to go Rams 33, Cincinnati 17.
And Stunna's got Rams upending the Chiefs 33-17. I have one team scoring 33, but I got the Bungles of Cincinnati scoring 33. And I got the I'm sorry, I drew a blank there. I got the Rams scoring 30. I got 33-30. I got McPherson getting 4 field goals to get to the 33. I just see the Bengals have overcame so much this playoffs. I have a hard time believing that they're going to fall off now. But so have the Rams.
No fan base deserves it more, I will say that.
What happened, Stunna?
I say no fan base deserves a Super Bowl more than the Bengals fans.
Yeah, Cincinnati's honestly a really cool area too. Their area between their Great American Ballpark for the Reds and Paul Brown Stadium for the Bengals is absolutely beautiful. It's like, a radius between 2 stadiums where they got all these cool bars and outdoor things to do in between, and you could get a drink and walk up and down and enjoy the game. It's really cool. Marcos Correa is joining us. Thanks so much, Marcos. He says 30-24 Bengals. So we got 3 on the Bengals. I think that's with our hearts, and 1 on the Rams. That's Stunna being on the Rams. So, fellas, we're wrapping up this show here. We said we were going to go 35 minutes, but that's what happens when you're having freaking good-ass football talk. We're about to be over an hour. Cats, what's your one big thing in walk-off as we head into Super Bowl weekend? What's your one big thing in walk-off for the Buccaneers and all the rumors swirling around at this time?
I'd be careful what you listen to in terms of rumors. I think the most important thing is that, put the quarterback position aside, obviously, even though it is the most important position, put the best 52 around that, no matter even if you don't know who your quarterback's going to be. There's no reason for us to fall back into the mode of, well, we got a tank and all that bullshit. Put the best team you can on the field within the parameters of whatever you have to follow. I'm not saying you mortgage, your future, but the salary cap, we've seen how teams, including the Saints, I hate to give them credit, but they managed to draft and develop well. And the Bucs should continue to try to do the same. Put the best team, focus on re-signing Chris Godwin and any other guys you feel are worth keeping. Go out and sign a guy like Cordell Patterson to augment your offense, give you a good third receiver, and go out and put the best team and let whomever, and then, whatever happens at quarterback happens. Put the best team you can on the field, though.
I totally agree. You got to surround that quarterback. Whatever happens, there happens, but you got to give him the best 52 possible. And Jason Light, I feel like, has always tried to do that with the Bucs, giving or taking. I mean, before Brady, he's tried to make some signings. It was hard to bring guys here before Brady, though. But once you bring Brady here, Light said it in his interview once Brady retired. He hopes, and I think his hope is true. Once players realize that Brady came here, any player could come here. It opens up the door to so many possibilities. I truly believe that. So I agree with you. Go get
I want to add
Godwin.
something to that, Tones. I got to add something because this
Yep.
always resonated with me. That at the end of the Super Bowl, Tony Romo said that culture has changed forever. And I usually try to avoid that term because it gets thrown around so often, culture change. But I really do believe that those that are still here and whoever comes in new that can learn from it can take something from these 2 years playing with Tom Brady that they didn't never experienced before. And even with him gone, it doesn't have to go away, whatever they've learned from him. And I think it will. I think it sticks with you. And I feel like everybody that has ever played with Tom Brady will tell you that they've absorbed the knowledge, the will to win, the just unique way that I've never, in all my years of following sports, watched a pro athlete on my team with that, just such an I don't even know the edge, whatever you want to call it. And I think it's still behind with a lot of these guys that are here and can rub off on whoever comes in as well.
I totally agree with you there, and that's a great point. And I know your tweet a couple years back alluded to it when you were like, "I wish Brady's my QB one day." He ended up being our quarterback, and I think you're totally right. I have this conversation with people, including my brother, all the time that Tom Brady's legacy is going to last a lot longer than the 2 years he played here, because I don't think you're ever going to see the Buccaneer days again, the days of crappy product on the field. Sure, you might see a down season here and there, but you're still going to see bright spots in those down seasons. You're still going to see players making plays or young players trying to be developed. I really think when Bruce Arians came here, that started the culture change. He brought in a guy like Ndamukong Suh, brought in coordinators like Leftwich and Bowles, brought in guys like Tom Moore and Christensen and Goodwin on the coaching staff, guys who just, had ringing endorsements. And then a couple of years before that, Jason Light traded for Jason Pierre-Paul, which started a good culture change as well. Then you add in a guy like Tom Brady. They started adding some legends of the game, fellas. Legends of the game between JPP and Ndamukong Suh, Bruce Arians, and Tom Brady. Cherry on top is Gronk. I'm piggybacking off that for my one big thing is what Katz is saying. I think the cornerstone of this franchise has forever turned the corner, and I don't think we're ever going to get back to the worst of the worst of the worst of the worst, the worst winning percentage in all four sports in history again. I don't think we see the days in the basement. Stunna, what say you and all that?
Every off season, whoever we lose is a key free agent. Light always drafts with the first round draft pick. You remember we lost Quan, came back and drafted. Devin White. So look for that this offseason. Pay attention to when free agency goes through. Look to who we lose in free agent and expect that to get addressed on draft day.
So you're saying perhaps if the Bucs were to lose a running back or center, or a D lineman, maybe they're going to look at one of those spots, or a Carlton Davis, maybe they'll look for a D back in round one.
Yes, Carlton Davis, Will Goldson, Ndamukong Suh, tight end situation, O.J. Howard, and Gronk. We have the potential to lose a lot of players, and we don't have that many draft picks. So we're really going to have to do a great job of drafting in the later rounds this year, and we're really going to have to do a great job of plugging holes. So that's why free agency is going to be very important, because we're going to have to fill in for the guys that we potentially lose in free agents.
Yeah, that's for dang sure. So I couldn't agree with both you guys anymore. Look out for who the Bucs draft based on who they lose in free agency. And at the same time, as Kat said, we're going to surround ourselves with the best 52 through the draft and through free agency and et cetera, et cetera. And as I said as well, I think the cornerstone of our franchise has changed forever. So those are all positive notes to take away on this Buccateers. We're not doom and gloom on this podcast. We're not going to sit here, kick the can, and say, oh my God, Brady's going to come out of retirement and go to the 49ers, and Gronk's going to go to Cincinnati and play with Joe Burrow. No, we're realists. We tell it like it is, and we believe in Buck Ball 101. That's all we got for today, folks. On behalf of Stunna Cats, I'm Tampa Tones. It's been the Buccateers. Until next time.
Defending NFC South champions.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You ain't lying. Defending NFC South champions. Year before that, Super Bowl champions. So, fellas, as far as I'm concerned, two, in some sort of sense, championship seasons in a row,
That's true. We hung 2 banners. Let's get ready for draft day where the Buccaneers always win.
Yep. Amen on that. And, Kat, thanks again for joining us as well, brother.
Pleasure as always. Y'all have a great night.
You too, fellas. It's been the Buccateers. As always, Tampa Tones, Cats, and Stunna. Cody G and Bucko couldn't join us, but that's okay. Thanks, everyone. Go Bucs.
Fire the cannons!